Your Imperial Highness, colleagues and friends, welcome to the Chester Beatty on what's a beautiful, bright, sunny morning here in Dublin. I'm Fionnuala Croke, Director of the Chester Beatty, and it's my great pleasure to welcome you to our special 25th anniversary lecture with Her Imperial Highness Princess Takamado. In 2000, after 50 years in Shrewsbury Road, in a leafy suburb of South Dublin, the museum moved to the Clock Tower building in the grounds of Dublin Castle, in the heart of the city centre. Throughout 2025, we will celebrate the achievements of the past 25 years in this historic location, and today's special talk will set the ball rolling. In 2000, the museum received 60,000 visitors. And last year, we welcomed over 530,000 visitors, quite an extraordinary increase by any measure, but one that is testament to the world-class collections that we care for, as well as to the museum's proactive approach to building relationships locally, nationally, and internationally, and establishing itself as a centre for intercultural dialogue and engagement. The strong cultural links between the Chester Beatty and Japan started in Beatty's own lifetime. In 1917, he spent 3 months in Japan from April to June. And those links have grown in strength over the years. Through the medium of the collection, the Chester Beatty has developed important contacts with scholars and cultural institutions in Japan through our research, exhibitions, and our education and outreach programs. In July 2017, Princess Takamado visited Dublin to celebrate the 60th anniversary of modern Ireland-Japan relations. During that visit, the Princess inaugurated an in focus exhibition here in the Chester Beatty called Preserved in Partnership, Treasures of Japanese Art. That was a display highlighting a selection of our exquisite painted Nara Ihon albums or books and scrolls, which have been conserved with the generous support of partners in Japan, including a very special collaboration in the 1980s with the Archives Department of the Imperial Household Agency. Today's talk by the Princess takes place against the backdrop of our current exhibition, Zodiac Netsuke, a spotlight display featuring Netsuke from the Chester Beatty's collection, curated by Dr. Ai Fukunaga, our curator of East Asian collections. Netsuke hold a special place for Princess Takamado. She and her late husband, His Imperial Highness Prince Takamado, shared an important collection, a large and important collection of Netsuke. Over the last number of years, the Princess has donated Netsuke from this collection to the Tokyo National Museum, where they are displayed in the Prince Takamado Collection Room. We're greatly honoured that the Princess has taken time out of her extraordinarily busy schedule to speak with us today. On a practical note, we'll have time for a limited number of questions at the end, and I'd invite you to please put these into the Q&A function. Please note that the chat function is disabled. And the talk is being recorded and will be available on our website and YouTube channels in the coming weeks. And so it's with great pleasure, Princess Takamado, that I now invite you to speak to us about zodiac animals in the Takamado collection.
Thank you very much indeed for that lovely introduction. First of all, I would like to extend my congratulations on the 25th anniversary of the Chester Beatty Library in Dublin Castle. And I do have many happy memories of the visit that I made in 2017. Thank you very much also for having chosen this rather interesting topic of zodiac animals in the Takamado collection, because I have never ever looked at our Netsuke collection in that light. And it's actually given me sort of an entirely new perspective on the type of Netsuke that we have. Obviously, the Netsuke that we collect are because they cover topics that we like, but then you also tend to collect things that are more available. So it has been a rather interesting exercise. It has required a lot of counting because other than the 500 Netsuke that have been donated to the Tokyo National Museum, I still have more than 500 Netsuke here. So it's been a rather mind-boggling exercise. All of the images that I will be showing today are images from the Netsuke in the Takamado Collection, including those that have already been donated to the Tokyo National Museum, bar one, and I will explain to you why there is a bar one. So let me see whether I can share my screen with you. Now then, yes. I'm aware that there are members of the audience who are very knowledgeable about the subject of Netsuke, and that there are others who probably are hearing about Netsuke for the first time. So I just want to have you look at this slide. This shows a gentleman with a hakama over his kimono. The brown cords are actually the strings of his hakama. Underneath, he's wearing a kimono with a white pale obi. The Netsuke is the round object that is at the top. It is a stopper toggle for whatever the gentleman chooses to have suspended from his obi. The middle ojime is a little bead that facilitates the opening and the closing of the in-row, which in fact is a medicine case. You can have tobacco pouches or different tonkotsu wooden containers, but all sorts of hanging objects. Now, in many cultures, you do have things that are suspended from the belt, but especially with the nomadic tribes, you will find that they carry many things because they need to use both hands. However, the way that this Netsuke is holding the suspended item is by having the Netsuke go behind the obi belt, the pale belt, and to pull it up from the top, and then to pull it down, pull the suspended item down again, so that it fixes there. Now, let me show you. This is a picture that comes from the Tokugawa Museum, and it shows that there is a ring with a obi with a belt going through it. Now, when it is worn this way, which is the way that it's worn in many cultures, it is not possible to remove the fastening Netsuke ring from the obi. What happens is, in Japan, we end up with a wide obi, which no longer goes through this ring. And therefore, people just started to pull the ring up so that it went above the obi and sat there. Once you have that happening, there is no need to have that large hole in the middle of the ring. It can be a smaller hole, just enough to hold that knot that will allow the suspended items, the cords of the suspended items, to stay there fixed. Once you have a Netsuke that is easy to remove from the belt, then you want to decorate it. It becomes a fashion item. So in the Edo period, where Netsuke were worn all the time, and it's a gentleman's item, it's a utility item with a very clear function, but it is also a fashion item because it is very visible in the way that you would perhaps decorate your mobile phone or have an interesting pen, or you'll have a nice watch. It is a fashion item. That kind of development is, as far as I know, something that is special to Japan. We do not see it in other cultures. Now, the 12 zodiac animals, in this particular Netsuke, all of the 12 animals are there, and it's pretty obvious that the artist doesn't like the snake very much because it's just there and very, very small. It was made in the 20th century, but it's contemporary Netsuke by Hiragame Gyokusai. I have been asked in the past whether we have sort of amulets in Netsuke. And in fact, the zodiac animals do serve a function which is a little similar to an amulet, because of course you want them to protect you, or you choose a zodiac animal which is 6 away from your own animal, which means that you're protected both ways. Each year of the Chinese lunar calendar is associated with a specific animal. And this tradition is very important in all Asian cultures. However, depending on the country or the region, some of the zodiac animals change. And so in Japan, we have the rat or the mouse, we call them the same, the ox, tiger, rabbit or hare, the dragon, the only mythological animal, snake, horse, sheep. In the Edo period, it was a goat, and the monkey, cock, dog, and boar. These are the 12 animals that we have in Japan. And because pictures speak louder than words, I will show you the Netsuke from our collection, the antique Netsuke on the left, the contemporary Netsuke are on the right. And I've tried to choose them so that they show the difference between the Netsuke that were worn, they were functional items, and they were very popular in the Edo period, and the developments that we've had, which have meant that artists are very creative with their interpretations of various zodiac animals. So, and I've also tried to choose them so that they're different, to give it as much variety as possible, to have different artists, different materials used, and so on. The one on the left is by Kyoto of Masanao, who is Masanao of Kyoto, who is a very, very famous artist in the 18th century, that is well known for his animal Netsuke. You will note that all of the fine engraving, the hairline carving has gone, and you will only see it in places that are very difficult to reach. So just behind the ears and, you know, in the tummy and things like that. I only seem to have 3 antique rats or mice, but I seem to have at least 16 contemporary ones. So there we are. The next one is the ox. The Tomotada is Izumiya Tomotada is very well known for his rendition of ox cows. This is a cow and young, or cow and calf. Here again, you will notice that all of the fine hair line carving has gone where the person will have touched it, or where the Netsuke will have rubbed against his kimono, and just left it where it has not been touched. Now, this sort of coloring, the patina, the worn look is very popular amongst and highly prized amongst collectors of antique Netsuke. This was, in fact, one of the last Netsuke that my husband purchased in before he passed away in 2002. The one on the right, a similar positioning, but with the egrets. But this is made of stag antler, and the Tomotada ox is made of ivory. All the ivory Netsuke that are in our collection were made of ivory that was already imported into Japan before the banning of international trade in ivory. And in fact, I have actually said that I won't buy for the last quite a few, from very early on, I have said that I will not buy ivory Netsuke, even if they are made from ivory that's already in Japan, just so that I don't know. I think I should be setting an example. So it's been like that. I seem to have 6 antique oxen in the collection, which is the second largest number of antique Netsuke Zodiacs. And the one that I have most is the tiger, which I have, of which I have 7. This tiger, Mother and Cub by Tanaka Minko, who was also very, very well known for his tigers, I find very interesting because you can almost see the communication between the mother and the cub. You also note that the cub is spotted because Japan didn't have tigers or leopards or cheetahs or anything. So we were judging things by the fur that was, not the fur, the skin that was coming in and shaping them like cats. Minko is famous for the way is well known for the way he puts in the eyes. He uses a brass inlay, and you will note that there is some coloring with red in the mouth, in the nostrils, just around the eyes as well. He was very active in the mid 18th century to the early 19th century. The one on the right, similar sort of positioning, but by a contemporary artist, Dr. Hideaki. In both, you will note that the stripes are shown by having fur carving, hairline carving in the dips, and the stripes are shown by not having that. And so without using any coloring, they managed to sort of get that texture going. The next one. Oh, and this one, just for your information, I don't have that many contemporary Netsuke. It's interesting. I have a lot of antique Netsuke. 7. By the way, our collection is primarily a collection of contemporary Netsuke. So despite the fact that we have quite a lot of antique Netsuke, as far as antique Netsuke is concerned, there are collections around the world that are bigger and superior to the one that we have. The next one, okay, rabbits or hares. Very popular subject. The one on the left is by Koke, very, very typical of the type of work that we would get. Now, the one on the right by Tachihara Kangyoku, the surrealistic rabbit, is it's a very, very bold statement. Bearing in mind that it was made in 1971, and contemporary Netsuke was actually established as a new genre about then, where it was decided that the artist should explore designs from their age, look at society and render society as it was in their age, that they needed to be one of a kind, that the artist had to make the whole Netsuke from the beginning to the end. And so it changed from being a craft work to becoming an artwork in that time. I seem to have, surprise, surprise, 31 contemporary Netsuke portraying rabbits, which is the largest number of any of the Netsuke. Now then, for some reason, the dragon is the only mythological creature in the zodiac animals that we have. All the others are animals that you see around you quite normally in Japan. This is the only dragon Netsuke that I have, and it portrays a rain dragon, which is a young dragon. I always feel that it really doesn't feel like doing anything. It's just one of those days. The one on the right by Nagashima Shinya, the Dragon Girl, is you would only get a Netsuke like this in the 21st century because he is an artist that has actually been working in the figure, sort of girl figure character, anime type figurines. And he's still working there as well. But I find that it's very iconic. It's the sort of Netsuke that, as a contemporary Netsuke collector, I would like to have in my collection. But it's a design that certainly did not exist in the Edo. This one, again, snakes entwined with the one has his mouth open, the other closed, the alpha and the omega. This is the antique Netsuke, but the one on the right, the Orochi, the large serpent by Sumikawa Kiichi, who was a famous sculptor, is made in titanium. And titanium, if you put a burner against it and heat it, it changes into different colors. You will note if you look carefully that the scaly skin of the snake has actually been carved in it as well. So then and by the way, this year is the year of the snake. The horse. The antique Netsuke is from the Iwami region in Shimane Prefecture now. And it has been used so much that it's entirely smooth. The one on the right, the 12 Guardian Deities by Bekenji, is the first gift that my husband gave me just before we announced our engagement and had our press conference. That resulted in because it was a birthday present. I think the press wanted at the press conference they asked me what he'd given me, and I'm sure that they wanted an answer, such as he gave me a ring or he gave me a pendant. And I said that he gave me a Netsuke, and the whole media, that they just froze. There were question marks all over the place. They hadn't the clue of what Netsuke were. Now it's better. Now more people understand what Netsuke are about, but it is indicative of the times, I think. They were not so familiar with Netsuke then. Now, the goat or the sheep, in Chinese, goat and sheep are considered the same. They use the same yang as the name for both. And so most of the goats, most of the sheep, we say it's the year of the sheep, but most of the renditions that we have that are taken from, I suppose, China originally does mean that all of the Zodiac year of the sheep goat Netsuke that we have are all goats. I've never seen antique sheep Netsuke. I mean, there may be some, but I have not seen them. The one on the right is by Hariaki Nuyo. She is a lacquer artist, and the black sheep. But the material is amber. The white inlay is a quail, the eggshell of the quail egg. And you'll see what I mean about trying to give you a variety of different materials. The one on the left, the monkey sambaso, it's Hirado ware from Nagasaki, and we seem to have 7 antique Netsuke of at least 7 antique Netsuke of monkeys. But for some reason or other, we have 26, or at least 26 contemporary Netsuke of monkeys. The one on the left, the antique Netsuke, is a trick Netsuke, and the neck moves and the tongue goes in and out, but it's a ceramic Netsuke. The one on the right by Miyazawa Aya, the one on the left is Kyogen, so I thought that I would match it with a monkey that is listening to oldies music. And the next one is the cock on a drum. This is the bar one. I did not have a single cock rooster Netsuke in the Takamado collection, so I borrowed this from a friend. It's sitting on a drum because they said that there's a story in China that the ruler puts a drum outside the gate so that people can come and beat the drum if they have a complaint. But because he's a good ruler, nobody comes, and so roosters can sit on it and nothing happens. It just means that it's a peaceful reign. The one on the right is by Suzuki, and this one is kind of like a hands-on dad. And he has there's an ojime that comes with an egg. This one it's a dog. I have several dogs, but the one on the left is a typical antique Netsuke of puppies. I like the teeth. The one on the right, Hitomikoma, it's a French bulldog, and apparently one of the American football teams has a mascot, which is a French bulldog. And right, so this is the last of the 12 as we go along. I love the one on the left because, I mean, it's one of my favorite antique Netsuke of a boar. The proportions are all wrong. He has a long snout. He's basically all head and very little body. But if you look carefully, the fur is very carefully carved out, and it's actually a very fine Netsuke. But it's almost like only people with an anime mind would ever come up with a design like this. But then this Let's Go by Fukuyama Kozan is also pretty wild in the it almost talks to you. It's a little bit like he's sort of saying to you, come on, let's get going. And I rather like that one. So the zodiac animals are supposed to have different characteristics. And so in Japan, we often talk about people born in a specific year as having the character of that zodiac. It probably doesn't work that way. There are probably lots of exceptions, but we do tend to talk about it. And we also talk about different years as being sort of reflecting the character of the zodiac. I would like you to note, because this is the last antique Netsuke that I'll be showing you. I would like you to note that the antique Netsuke that you have just seen are all Netsuke that actually moved out of Japan in the Meiji. They were exported in orange boxes and moved to Europe and the States just after the Meiji opening of Japan. But then Netsuke were also exhibited at the expo in Paris before the Meiji Restoration and also at the Vienna Expo in 1973. That was the first 1873. That was the first expo to which Japan actually sent a delegation and exhibited as a country, because the one before, it was the Tokugawa, the Nabeshima, and the Shimazu clans that exhibited. But the Chester Beatty has a very fine collection of Netsuke, and I had the privilege of viewing them when I visited for the 60th anniversary. But other museums in the West also have good collections. And had it not been for the enthusiasm of people for things Japanese, because it was a functional item, we would have probably lost a lot of them. So just with a feeling of tremendous gratitude that I'm giving you this lecture today. Now then, photography is also a hobby of mine, not just collecting Netsuke. And so putting the two together, I have been doing a series of photographs called Travels with Have Netsuke Will Travel. I published a book on that, but I still continue to write essays using these photographs. And I'm going to show you contemporary Netsuke, starting with the mouse and ending with the boar, of some of these photographs that I've taken with the Netsuke in the Takamado Collection. So I won't give you too many names, but this is from the 47 Ronin family, the story that you may know, the Chushingura. And the background, you see the same pattern, but it's a kabuki costume that Shochiku lent me for the photograph. And it's the one that they actually use when they're performing this particular kabuki. Okay, so this one is The Ox and Boy by Azuma Seiho. It's an idyllic scene. It was taken in Saga Prefecture. In the background, they are towards the right, you can see that it's a steppe paddy field. And it was a very rainy day and very hazy in the background. But this is the sort of idyllic scene that one would probably have seen not that long ago. Now then, this is in Chinese, the zodiacs are not only the 12 zodiacs, there are also the 4 directions. This is the white tiger of the West. We call it the white tiger, by Iwata Tomoyuki. The 4 symbols of the West, East, South, North are referred to by a variety of names, but they're the 4 guardians or the 4 gods. But the dragon is the azure dragon of the East. The bird is the vermilion bird of the South, and the North is the black tortoise, and this is the white tiger. So I did all 4 of them, but I tried to get the image of the white using crystal stones. Yes, it'll be Easter not too far away. Easter bunny. Those are Easter bunny chocolates, Easter chocolates in the background. But this is, I wanted to show you this one because the material is a hippopotamus tooth. Hippopotamus have teeth that continue to grow and they have to be cut. In the wild, they would probably be eating things underneath that grind it down. And because we have so many rabbits, another rabbit, this is a rabbit with a ball which is made of silk thread. In the background, they're very blurred, but they are also balls that are made of silk thread. And this one is, this monkey with a ball is by Yoka, Mukaida Yoka. She's a female artist. And one more. Because as I told you, we have lots of rabbits in the contemporary collection. The one on the left is the Netsuke. It's called Heart. The one on the right is actually the Ojime, which is that bead in the center, but it's the March hare. It was taken with the program that the National Ballet did, the new National Ballet did in Japan of Alice in Wonderland. And this is made of glass. I mentioned that the dragon in the 4 directions is the azure dragon. So this one is the a dragon of the East by Fujiyango. He is rather interestingly a contemporary artist that many of the antique Netsuke collectors do favor. I mean, they buy work by him. The background is agate, blue agate. And this is a very classical type, I suppose. This is Twin Dragons by Hiraga Tanetoshi, the son of the artist that did the 12 zodiac animals that I showed you at the very beginning. The background is is a piece that I have, which is one of my treasures. It's by the late Eri Sayoko, who was a kirikane artist, very well known. She passed away very suddenly. And I've just put an acrylic bar and put the Netsuke on top of it in front of her work. This is either a snake or dragon. It's actually called, the artist has called it the dragon serpent deity. The dragon is in Japan associated with very many of the natural things that happen. So it's like the lightning, the dragon or the snake. It's also indicates our rivers, our the waves, the wind, the lining of the clouds. They sort of signify a lot. So that they are much of muchness. But this was made as a dragon serpent. So I took it to Shimane Prefecture, where they have the Kagura, and the Kagura mask in the background. I thought was sort of because there is a very famous tale of the 8 serpents that we have in the Izumo region, and so this is the mask for the Izumo Kagura in the background. That piece was made by Onozato Zanmai. This one also by Onozato Zanmai, and this one is it's called Late Autumn. And the material is the material, the old material that was the old bridge from the Kintai-kyo in Iwakuni, which they restore after every 20 or 40 years, depending on the part of the bridge. So we end up with all this sort of material that they have, the old material. And so I asked for a small portion of it, and he made it into this Netsuke for me because Iwakuni has white snakes that are supposed to be very lucky. And this is called East Wind. It's a horse. He's meditating. You will see that he's got his legs crossed, and he's meditating, but he's got one eye open because there's a cherry blossom, the petal that's fallen on his shoulder. And it's called East Wind because that time of year, the east wind blows. He's not sort of, meditating hard enough. He sort of realized that there's a petal there. And a completely different horse. And this also I wanted you to see because it's by a non-Japanese artist, George Vale. He passed away quite recently, but it's of a running horse. This again is the abstract style is very much something that you would not have got in the Edo period. Sheep at last. This is the only sheep that I have in the collection. It's called smooth sheep because the whole body of the sheep doesn't have the curly sheep look. It's just entirely smooth. But I was glad that I had this because the other one was a goat. The antique Netsuke was a goat. Okay, monkey. Everybody is familiar with the 3 monkeys, the see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. Well, this is a 3-in-1 monkey. He's actually doing all of it himself. He's got his ears, eyes. And this one is called Monkey on a Tile. It's by Kandachi Lumine. She's also a lady artist. In the background is a what we call. I'm also a fan of orchids. It's a monkey orchid. It's a Masdevallia, the monkey orchid. It looks like that. And this is a Kompira dog. The Kompira dogs, instead of to go to the Kompira shrine in Kagawa Prefecture was a very important thing for many people. And sometimes they couldn't manage to do that route, and they would send a dog with the offerings and have the dog pass from person to person to get to a Kompira shrine, and then the dog would come back. And so this contemporary the contemporary Netsuke of this Kompira dog came from an artist who lives in Kagawa Prefecture. It's Kompira Shrine in the background. And this would be the last one of the Zodiac animals. This is a boar made of stag antler. Now, the artist worked very hard when we no longer had ivory as a possible material. for use in making Netsuke. Well, not all of them. Some of them still have ivory that they can use, and it's possible to trade in ivory in Japan. So some of them still carve in ivory, but a lot of the artists experimented and finally came up with a way in which they could make the stag antler very white. In a sense, I actually like the stag antler because each stag antler is entirely different. So the Netsuke has a kind of I don't know, a feel which is entirely different from anybody else's. But the style is also very contemporary. The way that he's put adventuring in for the eyes, but also the way that he's put in this inlay of a butterfly is also something very contemporary. I tried to make it look as if he's sort of looking for insects to eat in the bark. I will show you nothing to do with zodiacs, but I will show you 4 images in this series of photographs because I took them in Ireland. This is a booby by Mukaida Yoka. It was taken in Island's Eye, just outside Dublin. It's a blue-footed booby, which means that any bird watchers out there will know they are not going to be in Ireland. But the Netsuke was called booby, and there are brown-footed buoys in Ireland. So we'll say this one works. Next one. This was taken in the Chester Beatty. I don't know whether you remember me taking it, but this is I think in English it's called a Pacific football fish, but it's by Mori Kenji. It's a deep sea fish and it has a lantern on its head, so it's reading about light bulbs by the light of its own lantern. And one more that I took in the Chester Beatty, this one, it's a bookworm. Yeah, this is, I keep telling my children they shouldn't be looking at books with their nose stuck in it too much. And one last one, Beware of Dog. This is Memories of a Shiba Dog, and it's by Hitomi Koma. Now, I mean, it probably looks like a normal dog in front of a normal sign because there's nothing there to compare the sizes. It's to put it in sort of perspective. But in fact, this is a Netsuke, and that is a normal Beware of Dogs sign. So it's always important to get things in perspective. This one is also taken in Ireland, but now I'd like to share this. Takamado Collection, a famous Japanese sculptor. This wooden sculpture on the left, the old monkey, was exhibited at the Chicago Expo in 1893. You'll see that there's a eagle feathers that he's holding, and he's looking. He tried to get the eagle and failed, so the eagle's flown away, and he's looking in the direction of the eagle. This Netsuke, this sculpture, the old monkey, stands at 109 centimeters. So it's over a meter tall. The one on the right is the old monkey by Mori Tetsuro. And it is 4 centimeters. When I hold it in my hand, you see how small it is. It really only goes to show how important it is, I think, that we always see things in perspective. Netsuke were exported to the West in orange boxes, as I said before. But had they not gone as functional items, we would probably not have treasured them so much in those days. Now different, but then because Netsuke went abroad, they've served as goodwill ambassadors. They've opened doors to Japan, its culture, its history, its literature, even to the legends and classics of China. They have been very, very important ambassadors. They've made huge contributions, and in fact, more research has been done in the West than in Japan. More books have been published in the West than in Japan, and there are certainly more Netsuke abroad than there are here in Japan. I would like to thank the Chester Beatty for having given me this opportunity to talk about the Takamado collection on such an important occasion as the 25th anniversary of being in Dublin Castle. And I would now be happy to answer any questions to the best of my ability. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that wonderful talk and those really gorgeous slides. I have to say, I really so thoroughly enjoyed that. Thank you. There were so many layers and levels, and of course we're used to here in the Chester Beatty with working with antique Netsuke. That too, it was so nice to see it alongside the contemporary pieces and hear about those. And then of course you bring the next layer, which is your interest in photography, and then you bring them to life by placing them in landscapes. And of course you remind us of your other great interest in and you were or honorary patron of BirdLife, I believe, international, I think, as well.
I am.
With
I am.
which is fantastic. There are some questions in, but there's one of them that I was also going to ask, and you've alluded to it there now at the end of your talk as well, and throughout your talk, that what I'm going to call the status of the Netsuke for Japanese people. So we know that in the 19th century there was this craze that the French call Japonisme. As you say, they were exported in great numbers, not just to France, but to collectors across the West. And how are they regarded then today? You know, if when your engagement was announced, there was sort of confusion about what this thing was, is there a common understanding? Is there a popular understanding today and appreciation for these contemporary artists?
I think we seem to see several new collectors appear each year. And at the same time, we see some new Netsuke artists appear as well. So in a sense, the balance is quite good at the moment. But in fact, if we suddenly had a huge number of people trying to buy Netsuke, there wouldn't be enough Netsuke to go around, not really. So in a sense, I think it's a very sort of contained market as such. However, having said that, from the Edo period onwards, there's never been a time when Netsuke have not been made. It's not like we resurrected it. It has always been made. There are certain professions that the sumo wrestlers, the referees, the top referees will wear them. Many kabuki actors, for instance, have them. It's not like the Netsuke disappeared from being made. They continue to be made. So, you know, there's a sort of feeling that I have that I don't necessarily want it to become really popular, but I do want people to understand that it's continued, and also that the interesting thing is that Netsuke is a name given to an item for its function. So all the skills, all the materials used are very varied. The skills used are techniques are very varied. And so it's not as if it's a very narrow field. In fact, collecting Netsuke means that you do have at your fingertips a variety of different Japanese craftsmanship. You saw the glass, you saw the ceramics, you saw the makie, wood carving, ivory carving, tusk carving, the antler carving. That sort of having that variety is very satisfying, and I think many new collectors are finding that as well.
And the tooth, wasn't there a hippopotamus tooth? Extraordinary.
Hippopotamus tooth, yes.
Extraordinary. Yes. And are you still collecting yourself?
Yes, I am. Yeah,
you are actively
yes.
still collecting. So we have some. There's one question I'm going to go to because you've alluded to it there. In fact, are all contemporary miniature sculptures called Netsuke, or do they have to be? Or do they have to have a utilitarian function to be called?
There was at one point, rather interestingly, a move that was artists were trying to make the Netsuke himotoshi cord holes smaller and smaller. But because the Edo period cord holes are very big, it's just easier functional items. Yes, that is an absolutely spot on question, because if there is no way in which you can attach a cord to it, then it cannot function in the way that a Netsuke would function as a stopper toggle. Then it is just a small carving, and it's not a Netsuke. But you can actually have Netsuke that have no hole as such, but there is somewhere that the artist has decided you can put the cords through. The tiger, the Minko tiger and cub, for instance, has no cord hole, but it goes through the legs. And so it's not as if it's something that started as contemporary in the contemporary period. They also used to have it in the Edo period as well.
Very interesting. Another practical question, good question, are the Netsuke only representations of animals, or can they represent other things like flowers, even abstract concepts, kanji, for example?
Yes, yes. Yes, thank you for that question as well. It's a free-for-all. As long as they can function as Netsuke, and actually that was part of the last question as well, that they can still function as Netsuke. As long as they can do that, it really doesn't matter what subject it is. But I do see that Netsuke tend to be humorous. They are the light-hearted side of the Inro Netsuke set. My husband always used to call it that the Inro was the no, and the Netsuke was the kyogen. So they need both, the seriousness of the Inro needs the lightness of the kyogen, the Netsuke, to set it off. But they can be absolutely anything. I have a huge variety of things that are not animal Netsuke. And actually, it can be scenery even. And there are Netsuke that were used in the Edo period that are compasses, are they're little miniature guns, all sorts of things. Yes.
Indeed, here too we have, they're not on display, I'm afraid, at the moment, but we have a number, and they're of various subjects, but they can be great fun, as you say. They really
Yes,
just can be
indeed,
fun.
yeah.
Yeah. There's another question here that's got several parts, but I'll break it down a little bit. I think the first one is interesting. I always thought that the Asian years, I think the Zodiac years, we'll say, were exclusively part of the Chinese culture.
Yeah.
But just have learned now that Japan follows a similar system. So that I don't know if you want to comment on that piece first, but of course, yeah.
Yes, I think it is part of the Chinese culture, but because the Chinese the diaspora, it is just spread. So we have it also in Vietnam and places like that. But I think it actually even goes as far as Turkey and places like that. I mean, it is actually very widespread. And I rather find the fact that I couldn't find a rooster or a cock rather amusing. But the mountain goat, the goat and the sheep idea is interesting, because I was always aware that sheep were imported into Japan. And yeah, we do have goats as well, but sheep were imported into Japan, and I couldn't work out why it was that we didn't seem to have quite so many. But I gather that the humidity, the heat and the humidity are not things that sheep like. And also, we don't have the sort of land that available for grazing in the way that some countries that do have a lot of sheep have. So perhaps all of that kicks in. But we never really seem to have sheep Netsuke even in contempt. We don't seem to have as many sheep Netsuke in contemporary Netsuke either. So it's not something that's just confined to the Edo.
No, indeed, I checked, and in our Zodiac Netsuke exhibition, it is indeed a goat, a late 19th century goat. That's because we say sheep were not native to Japan. That's
Yeah.
why, yeah. So there are a number of questions. I'd like to get through a couple of them. So I think I might go to some of the more specific ones, if I may, and apologies if I don't get to your question and you're watching us, apologies. Thank you so much for such a delightful talk. As you already have a large number of Netsuke, what criteria do you use when selecting new Netsuke to acquire? Nice question.
Very nice question. Yes, I ask myself that often as well. Obviously, one tends to have artists that one likes, and if one's not careful, one's attention goes in that direction. What I do try to do is I try to ensure that if there's an artist is already established, then if somebody else would like the Netsuke, I tend to sort of think that it's much better if it goes to somebody else's collection because I have enough. I try to collect, and this is an important thing for me at the moment, young artists and new artists. So as they're starting off, I like the idea of my having a Netsuke that is at the beginning of their career, because then as they change over the years, I will be able to see that development. And I also think that it's probably encouraging for them. And I feel that, they probably need all the encouragement that they can get.
Yes.
So one of the things that I do is that I specifically look for new artists and try to support them. That I do. Yeah.
Lovely. I'm just keeping an eye on the time, and we just have a few minutes left. So I'm going to selfishly ask this question that one of our audience very kindly asked. I'm delighted you did, because it's something that I wanted to know about as well. The question as it came is, as they are so small, how do you effectively display them in Japan? And I just wanted to ask you in general about your thoughts about displaying Netsuke, because they are so tiny in general, apart from that expo one you showed us of the very large one. And it is tricky especially in a museum setting, for numbers of people to be able to see them in any detail. Yeah.
Yes, well, in a museum setting, it's very difficult because you can't have, you have to have people fighting past. If you put too many in one place, everybody's going to congregate in front of that. But in a normal Japanese house, Netsuke are very good because actually if you cram them in, you can get quite a lot into a very small cabinet. Netsuke are rather interesting. When I started collecting Netsuke, I was still just out of university. And when you buy one, it looks a bit lonely, so you need to put another one there. And it's quite quickly you end up with about 10 Netsuke. That's one phenomena. The other one is that I actually display them in glass cases. They're in the main drawing room. I have 5 on the wall and one corner cabinet, and I have them there. But I also have some of the ones that tend to look very fragile in case of an earthquake. I have them in a drawer that has them in segments. So if anybody wants to see them, I just bring the case out of the drawer and show it to them.
Lovely. And of course, you have the luxury with a private collection of being able to have trusted friends handle them, and the great beauty and joy of being able to touch them, of course, which
At one
sadly in a
point, I used to ask artists, to young artists, to come and look at the antique Netsuke, so that because they never get the chance to touch antique Netsuke, and I used to have them look at them and feel them because I thought it was very important for them to learn about them.
Really nice, really nice. I'm looking at the time, and I'm very conscious that it's now 10 p.m. in Tokyo. And I want to thank everyone for your questions, and I'm really, really sorry I didn't get to more of them. Please forgive us on that front. So on my own behalf, And on behalf of everyone with us online, a really heartfelt thank you, Princess Takamado, for sharing your great expertise and your enthusiasm and joy and your collection with us today. It was really wonderful.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, and I hope someday we'll have the great pleasure of welcoming you back in person to the Chester Beatty. We think so fondly of your visit, whatever it was, 7 years ago now, extraordinary. And the exhibition for you online, the exhibition of Zodiac Netsuke, is open here in the Chester Beatty until the 23rd of March, so not long left. But if you're outside of Dublin, and I know you're joining us from many places around the world today, you can also view the virtual 3D exhibition on our website, chesterbeatty.ie. Go raibh míle maith agaibh, agus tásúil agam go bhfuin sibh sult as an léacht. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much, Princess Takamado. We wish you all a really lovely day.